MIT linguists found that one structural shift, not your vocabulary, not your tone, not your confidence, changes how intelligent other people perceive you in real time inside a single sentence. Most professionals have no idea this pattern exists. By the end of this video, you will have a 4-step deployment framework you can use before your next meeting to trigger that perception shift on demand. This is not about eliminating filler words. It is not about slowing down your speech or making eye contact. Those are surface fixes. What MIT researchers identified goes deeper. It is about the logical architecture of your sentences, and it operates below conscious detection. Listeners cannot explain why they trust your judgment more. They just do. Here is exactly what the research found, and here is the 4-part framework that puts it to work for you today. Here is the problem most professionals face. You are not short on ideas in a meeting. You are short on the structural signals that tell your audience those ideas are worth trusting. Research from the field of sociolinguistics shows that listeners form competence judgments within the first 7 seconds of hearing someone speak, and those judgments are driven not by what is said, but by how the sentence is constructed. The average professional in a mid-level corporate role loses measurable influence in 3 to 5 conversations per week, simply because their sentence structure signals shallow processing, even when their thinking is not shallow at all. That gap between the quality of your thinking and the perception of your thinking is the exact performance problem this video solves. Point 1 is what linguists call the subordination signal, and it is the single highest leverage structural move in the MIT dataset. Here is the core finding. Sentences that embed a dependent clause before the main claim, rather than stating the main claim first, are rated as significantly more intelligent by listeners who cannot consciously identify why. A simple sentence delivers 1 unit of information. A complex sentence with a dependent clause opening signals that the speaker is holding multiple variables in working memory simultaneously. Listeners interpret this as cognitive bandwidth, which they then translate into competence and trustworthiness. The professional performance consequence is direct. In a 45-minute executive meeting, the person who consistently uses subordinated sentence openings is rated an average of 23 percentile points higher on leadership potential by their peers, according to language perception studies at Stanford Graduate School of Business. The actionable move is this. Before your next meeting, take your 3 most important points and restructure each one so it begins with a condition, a context, or a qualifier before the core claim. Instead of saying, quote, "We should move to quarterly reviews," say, "Given the variance we saw in last quarter's output, a shift to quarterly reviews would give us the data resolution we need." Same idea, completely different perception signal. The average professional restructures 0 of their sentences before a high-stakes meeting. That default costs them real influence, compounded across every quarter. Point 2 is the precision anchor, and it targets a specific cognitive bias that every listener in a professional setting is running unconsciously. The bias is called attribute substitution. When listeners cannot quickly evaluate the quality of your reasoning, which they almost never can in real time, they substitute a simpler proxy, how specific your language is. Vague language is processed as vague thinking. Precise language is processed as precise thinking, regardless of whether the underlying logic is actually more rigorous. The performance consequence here is concrete. Professionals who use what researchers call numeric and categorical precision markers, exact figures, named categories, bounded timeframes, are judged as having higher analytical ability even when delivering the same underlying content as peers who use general language. The difference in perceived credibility in studies at Wharton averages 31%. That is not a marginal gain. That is the difference between being the person whose recommendation gets adopted and the person whose recommendation gets tabled for more information. The actionable move is the precision swap. Go through your standard meeting vocabulary and replace every vague term with its most precise equivalent. Instead of saying, quote, "This will take some time," say, "This is a 3-week build with 2 dependencies." Instead of saying, quote, Most of the team agrees. Say, 7 of the 9 stakeholders are aligned, with 2 outstanding concerns in procurement. You are not adding information. You are repackaging existing information in a signal structure that reads as high analytical competence. A 31% credibility gap from word choice alone, not from your credentials, not from your track record, from the words you select in the moment. Point 3 is the causal frame, and this is where sentence architecture starts to compound. The causal frame is a structural move in which you explicitly name the mechanism behind your claim. Not just what is true, but why it is true, embedded directly in the sentence itself. Research in cognitive linguistics categorizes this as explanatory depth signaling. When a speaker links a claim to its causal mechanism in a single statement, listeners rate them as having deeper domain mastery, even when the mechanism named is already obvious. The reason this works is rooted in how the brain evaluates expertise. Experts do not just know what is happening, they know why. So when your sentence structure mirrors that causal logic, listeners pattern match you to the expert category automatically. The professional performance consequence. In performance reviews and promotion committees, employees who use causal frame language in self-evaluation and project updates are 40% more likely to be described by managers as strategic thinkers, a designation that directly affects advancement timelines. The actionable move is the because therefore bridge. Every major claim you make in a meeting should carry either a because or a therefore, stated or implied structurally. Instead of saying, quote, "We missed the deadline," say, "The deadline slipped because the approval cycle ran 4 days longer than the project plan accounted for," which means the revised go-live is now contingent on 2 sign-offs we need to accelerate. You have just demonstrated causal awareness, systemic thinking, and forward planning inside one sentence. That is the perception signature of someone who gets promoted. 3 structural moves, all deployable in under 1 minute of preparation before any meeting. Now here is the layer the MIT research uncovered that ties all 3 together, and it is the part most communication content never reaches. This is the resolution to what was seeded in the opening. The MIT finding was not just that any one of these patterns works. It was that stacking them in a specific sequence within a single speaking turn produces a perception shift that is statistically indistinguishable from the perception shift produced by a speaker with a decade more experience. The researchers called this the competence compression effect. You are not faking intelligence. You are structuring real thinking in a way that is legible to the pattern recognition systems listeners use to evaluate cognitive status. Here is the 4-step deployment protocol you can run in 60 seconds before any high-stakes conversation. Step 1. Identify your 2 or 3 core points for the meeting. Step 2. Restructure each to open with a subordinate clause, a condition, context, or qualifier before the claim. Step 3. Swap every vague term in those points for its most precise equivalent. Numbers, categories, named timeframes. Step 4. Attach a causal bridge, a because or a therefore, to each point so the mechanism is visible, not implied. That sequence, deployed consistently across a 45-minute meeting, produces what the MIT data described as a persistent competence halo. Listeners continue to rate the speaker more highly even after the structural moves stop. The perception compounds. One meeting does not just go better. Your standing in the room shifts across subsequent interactions. That is the measurable career consequence of a 60-second pre-meeting protocol. That is what sentence architecture actually costs you when you skip it. Here's the experiment for this week. Take your most common meeting phrase, the one you say almost automatically, and run it through the deployment stack. Drop the restructured version in the comments below. Seeing it written forces the pattern into working memory faster than any amount of passive listening. The comments section on this video is a precision anchor exercise in itself. Next week on Growth Daily, the research behind why high performers make decisions faster than their peers. Not because they have better instincts, but because they use a specific cognitive filtering protocol that eliminates 80% of decision friction before it reaches conscious processing. If that sounds like something your calendar cannot afford to miss, the subscribe button is below. Every video on this channel is under 12 minutes. Every one of them delivers a single protocol you can deploy the same day. No padding, no recycled motivation, just the lever that actually moves the needle. Researched, distilled, and ready for your next meeting.